Okay, good day to one and all. In today's shallow dive, we're going to dive into a company that I am personally interested in. I might be trying to pivot some of the stocks that I have into this counter. And the counter is known as Bumitama Agri. The ticker symbol is P8Z. All right. So Bumitama Agri is primarily in the business of cultivating oil palm plantations, processing them into crude palm oil, CPO, and palm kernel in Indonesia. All right, the market cap is $2.5 billion. Price earnings ratio is a reasonable valuation at 11.8. The price to book ratio is about 1.9. And to teach myself how to analyze this company, I noticed that the biggest key drivers of revenue are the crude palm oil prices, the CPO prices, and the palm kernel prices. Okay, and so because of this, production and sales volume is a very important driver of revenue, as well as yield efficiency, which means that for a certain amount of land that you have, how much palm can you extract from that unit of land? And obviously, if you want to do that, then the size of the estate and the age of the palm is very important as well, because the age of the palm is that palm oil is only very valuable at certain ages. Okay, so do note that I'm really moving away from my core competency here. For Bumitama Agri, it belongs to a class of commodities stocks in the Singapore Stock Exchange, highly volatile, and you really need a very deep understanding of commodities and commodities trading in order to succeed in investing in stocks like that. All right. Okay, so let's look at how the dividends is being paid out for the past 2 years. As you can see, for the 2023, if you take the cash flow from operations and you deduct off the capital expenditure, the dividends paid out is not sustainable. Barely, okay, barely. But in 2024, the dividends are sustainable, okay? So you can expect that Bumitama, it seems that for the past 2 years, they've been trying to give out the free cash flow every year. Okay, so it pays twice, around May and August every year. Okay, around 9.07 cents in 2025 this year. The forward dividend yield is around 4.9%. Okay, and yeah, and this is a decent dividends play, a value play, and a play on the stimulus from MAS. All right, so this is the situation for the stock right now. Let's look at the historical returns. For the past 10 years, the returns are mighty fine at 16%, but the risk is very high for the returns that you're getting. You're getting a standard deviation of about 30, that is about 50% above ordinary equities in Singapore. So this is really one of the riskier stocks to hold. Okay, the skew is positive, so it's like a lottery kind of stock, right? If you buy the stock and commodity prices spike because of high demand, right, or low supply, and then what will happen is that the stock price would suddenly shoot up. All right. The Sharpe ratio, however, is not particularly impressive at 0.54. And you can, if you time your market movements badly, you can lose 56% in a very ugly kind of drawdown situation. Okay, so this is a fairly risky stock. The thing that's going for it is that it doesn't have a high correlation against the STI. So if you have a typical REIT and bank kind of portfolio, adding a commodities kind of stock into the mix would be able to diversify your assets in a much better way. All right, so this is generally how the numbers look. Okay, and the risk is quite hard to stomach. So dividends have been good lately because of higher cash flows. And do note that this requires very strong expertise in commodities trading in order to really predict how the dividends would go in the future, because it seems to be tied very closely to palm oil prices. Okay, the strength is that it's got a very strong upstream kind of integration. That means where you get your palm, and some basic amounts of processing. Okay, the company has a large land bank, so you have control over the production as well as processing. So that's one advantage. But there are weaknesses because price swings in crude palm oil and combined with political risk in Indonesia, that creates a lot of volatility in the company. There are obviously opportunities from volume growth because some of the palm in the estates could be immature. As they mature, their yield would improve. All right, so there are some opportunities for that. You might want to dig further into that. Okay, and you want to also observe the rising global demand for palm oil and whether Bumitama Agri is investing in better mechanization. Right, all these things can lead to improved prices. And obviously, if you invest in commodities, the big problem has always been the weather. The weather is not as predictable, and there's all this ESG regulatory risk, right? Environmentalists are always looking at these farmers and agriculturalists, right, to figure out, whether they can be controlled. Okay. Okay, so what do you have to do before you make a decision of Bumitama Agri? I am likely to give this stock a miss after this examination. Okay, I find that this is almost a bet on palm oil commodity prices, which is really out of my core competency, and there is a lot of regulatory risk. Okay, if you have to take a view on palm oil prices, then what I did was I consulted AI, and the AI has a base case, right? 2 to 3% every year increase in prices of palm oil. So the stock price is more likely to depend on whether you're confident enough that management is doing a lot to increase their productivity, investing in mechanization, finding new strains to improve yields. All right. So that probably plays a bigger role to give you the positives for the stock price. You might want to observe that when you read an analyst report. Okay. Now, there are also concerns, I think, about currency risk. And the Singapore dollar is expected to strengthen against the Indonesian rupiah. I've talked about that in a previous video. And so you have to really take note of that. And more importantly, and this is something really away that I'm not an expert in, palm oil has a relationship with sunflower and soya bean oil, right? So palm oil could be a substitute product or a complement, right? So if you look at the prices of sunflower and soybean, if they drop, then the palm oil prices can't do particularly well. I think there are better and more stable sources of dividends in the local stock market, and I'm likely to give this stock a miss for now. And that's all I have for you. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel. You can buy me a coffee here. If you want to listen to my life story and figure out how the FIRE movement works, Google ERM intro and then take the first link, and I will see you soon in the next video. Thank you very much.